It's East Coast, Third Coast.
Are you kidding?
Well, the problem is...
He said, she said.
Talk about no hope.
Oh, boy.
And agree to disagree about...
It's a difficult argument.
Oh, that's a terrible argument.
absolutely everything.
You see, I don't see that.
A keep it simple, stupid
Well, that
starting
doesn't
point.
seem simple to me.
You're listening to The Pod Couple, where John Amisotti and Barbara Lippert debate all things media culture.
Barbara, we're here today to talk again about our business, the advertising marketing business.
Yeah.
Today's topic, in the ad business, we complain about the clients a lot. Different people do. But are we actually our own worst enemies?
Good question.
Right.
I don't think that ad people are their own worst enemies. I think you're dealing with enormous change and structures that really haven't changed since the days of Mad Men. And everybody is just sort of doing the best they can and working as fast as they can to keep up every day.
So that would actually, that's good. That maybe feeds into it a little bit. While you say we aren't, I would say you said the model hasn't changed since the days of Mad Men 50 years ago.
Right.
I personally would say that is a problem.
It's a problem. In those days, it was a new thing to have an art director and a copywriter work together. Before that, the art directors had been in the bullpen and they got it afterwards. But now, now there's a brand strategist and a digital strategist and an art director and a writer who pretty much can do each other's jobs because no one draws anymore. It's all on the computer. And then you have a technologist. But given all that, it's so much more complicated and you make so much less, and you have to have so many more people in the mix.
And I think maybe that begs the question why we can talk about it a little bit more. For a business that has changed a lot, an environment that has changed a lot, a media environment, but we're still kind of trying to play the game the same way with, for one, these teams can be very hard to pay for. It's very hard to pay for two. And again, as somebody who's ran groups for 30 years, I can say it. There might have been a time that it worked, but when the client is asking to cut back, we're basically not even cut back. What they're telling us is we're not going to give you as much money to do the same thing.
Right.
And we come back with the argument that it's like, for this 30-second commercial, for this web page, for this radio spot, it takes two people. And the argument would be like, I don't understand why one person can write a novel, one person can write a play, one person can write a number of things, but a 30-second TV commercial, that takes two people. It's a difficult argument.
Oh, that's a terrible argument because a novel is not a TV commercial. A TV commercial is not a piece of art. It has to sell something, and it has to be very specific, and it has to look a certain way. You can sit home and write a novel and rewrite it for 100 years.
There is the timing thing, but even that, there's just things where it's very hard to justify how we do things, how the sausage is made, and to pay for it. And frankly, when you go to clients with like, here's my problems, you know what you hear back? I don't care. That's your problem.
Well, now essentially the problem is, and this may be why advertising is its own worst enemy, it's essentially piecework that people do at hourly rates, and they bring people in and they fire them, to cover the piecework. And the greatest thing is if you have you've nailed the strategy, and then the execution, the creativity comes out of that, and you can do, what they used to call 360. And you can do all this other forms of it. And I think, the clients actually benefit from that, when you have a social campaign coming out of something you see on TV and I don't know. I think the biggest problem the ad world is facing is that digital is such a mess. We've taught people to flick away ads so that they can't wait to get rid of them.
Yeah, as far as the biggest problem, I think the biggest problem that we have is we've kind of, in some cases, gotten so complicated, gotten so into the details of being these wedding planners that we've forgotten the simplest part of the business, which is we are to persuade people to buy more of our clients' products. The business really does come down to being that simple at the core. So is it time to rethink it a little bit along those lines of like, we're working for whoever the client. We're working for Acme, and they want to sell more pump flanges.
Anvils.
Yeah, they want to sell more anvils. Do we necessarily need to get into the deep dive stuff that we get into that confuses us when it really should be a group of people sitting around saying, I think this would sell more anvils, and then get through it and try and make as much money as we can off it.
Yeah, well, then there's the other side, which is, saying that the advertising business has changed so much because of the whole internet and social part of it that, people can do their own stuff. They don't want to be told anything, and that it's no longer making people want stuff. It's making things that people want.
Well, and that very much undermined the business in a different way. I can tell you when these things first came along, people in the agency world thought they were going to get really, really rich because they were like, this is how much we get paid to make TV commercials. Wow, just imagine when we extrapolate that over 1 million times and do things for the internet.
5,000 banner ads.
Exactly, and you're going to get paid the same way, but people didn't necessarily go to the next step that it would mean, well, there'll be ways to make this cheaper and easier and simpler, and the audience will accept it. That's a huge part.
And not require anything that requires training or talent, That's a whole different thing.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, sometimes it's gone that way. And I think the technology has superseded and gone past the art sometimes, and we haven't brought them together necessarily in a way that is the best.
Well, the problem with digital, all these publishers going out of business because there's just no way to monetize it. There's infinite space available. You're getting, the old thing is digital dimes, but it's really quarters of pennies for what used to be dollars for TV commercials. And there's just, I think, storytelling and branded content. Some of those films are great, but I don't hear anybody, if you walk on the street and you said, oh, I saw this great little film. It was an ad that came on before the thing I was looking for.
But as far as the business itself, I'd go back to something you said earlier, monetizing things. The advertising business has always been a business. It's not an advertising art. And we go back to a flaw that was in it from the beginning. The creative was basically always given to you as the premium in the cereal box. It wasn't charged for. And we have been penalized for that for so long now. We're still not really doing a good enough job at righting that wrong.
Yeah, it's intellectual property and you're giving it away.
Exactly.
Here's the problem these days. Like you have to do, in trying to get new clients, you're coming up with these, you're spending all your own money, you're never getting paid back, and you're giving them ideas in pitches that they steal. Or, for example, like Staples, McCann came up with the easy button for them. They never made a cent on that. And Staples is still selling the easy button.
So again, that would go back to the argument then, are we our own worst enemies because we haven't fixed the groundwork before we expose the idea like that? Yeah. So is it time for a bit of a reinvention altogether? Is advertising different than we ever saw in a way that, let's compare it to another business, television was having a lot of problems. Television reinvented itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely.
There's been a renaissance of great stuff, but because it's on so many platforms, and does that mean people get paid less?
It can in some cases. There's definitely that, but you definitely saw where the best talent gravitates towards where there's fair compensation, and I think you see that in TV in just various forms. But there's a lot of great things made, and it's working there. Can we do some things different in advertising to maybe reinvent an old model that is not completely there?
It definitely needs reinvention. I keep thinking of what Don Draper once said to Peggy when she said, "You don't praise me." And he said, "That's what the money's for."
Exactly.
There's no money anymore for it to be for. But I just want to say something about the holding companies. If you think about the agencies that were strong enough to resist getting bought, like Wyden, like Droga, they tend to do the best work.
That definitely, I think, is something that people talk about a lot, and there's something to it.
And, with the holding companies, there's obviously a reason to sell.
It's true. Working for an agency that has a parent company that holds it, one of the things that you find is the agencies on their own didn't have a whole lot of enough money to do a lot of the things that you want to do. And again, we're a business. It takes money to hire talent. It takes money to make things, to do things. And that is very much a plus side. Actually, and a bigger organization can give you better benefits that help you attract better talent.
That's true.
Which is great. Sometimes the difficulties that you can run in is when you're bought by a business that is completely different than the ad business, and I would say every business is completely different than the ad business.
Yes, it's sui generis.
Yeah, it's we're a weird animal. But a lot more to say on this, I think. When we come back, we're going to be able to do that. And
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
exactly.
So we're back, and we were talking about all the problems with the industry. And John, you've been in the industry a long time, and you've seen a lot of stuff. So what would you suggest? Do you have any fixes?
Yeah. First and foremost, this is a no-brainer. Give John Immesoti $100 million.
Yes.
You start there. Now we go to
Well,
step B.
that's with the Immesoti and Lippert firm, right?
Yeah,
The-
if you get me that money, you're in.
Okay, good. Okay.
But after that, okay, now we have the people in place. The first thing I would do is again, let's simplify and let's talk about what we're trying to do to begin with. And it is just get back to the simple persuasion model of somebody is hiring us to sell more X. Let's start there and let's not start caught up in our shorts about all these big picture things right away. Again, I would call it getting away from the wedding planner model, that we're immediately going to go to the planners and we're going to go to the strategist and then we're going to go to the teams and we're going to go to this. I would just have a room full of people that are smart, persuasive business people start to talk about here's where their problems are, where they're not selling, here's how we can sell more. So a keep it simple, stupid
Well, that
starting
doesn't
point.
seem simple to me, because I see the problem with that, again, as people don't really want to be persuaded anymore. They want to come to it naturally. They want to think they discovered it. They want to think, that they know better than anybody who's trying to talk them into something.
Well, that would be step 2 then. Just don't have advertising at all, because you're saying it doesn't work. And
Well,
that
no,
we
I'm
all
not
know
saying
is,
it doesn't work.
That's
I'm just saying that the kind of old-fashioned advertising that persuaded you doesn't work.
No, not true. I mean, I think if you look at live events, you'll find live television still is very persuasive. I think you'll find things on mobile devices right now. You can't keep young people off them, and you can't keep people from buying off them. If you look
That's right. Then that's why you need a whole team. You need a strategist and a mobile strategist, and that's the problem, that it's become so much more expensive to be in business because you need so many more people at the same time that each project pays less.
if you operate in the same model, you do. But that's what I'm saying. It's you need to start just more from a selling point. You have to rethink the business from the ground up on that. The ideas aren't free. You
Right.
have to almost have to say you're not an advertising agency, that you're an idea lab or you're a growth company.
Right.
and
Some
come
of
at
these
it-
names, people are using that already, but
You
yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
You have to do that. You have to become something different, because
Right.
advertising is the tchotchke in the cereal box.
Right.
And you're paying for the other things, and that probably is just not going to work. I would maybe look again. Hollywood sometimes is ahead of us in some things.
Really?
In some ways. I mean,
How?
talent probably still ultimately rules there. It can be a little bit hard, but talent.
There's one place that advertising is better than Hollywood, if I can
Sure.
interrupt you, and that is in terms of working toward diversity and inclusion and having people
True.
at all levels
True.
that are not just, your old basic white guys. And that's what you're seeing now in the Oscars and all the problems throughout Hollywood. So I just wanted to put in a plug for advertising there.
True. Okay. Well, that's good. But but part of that too is it's a traditional model that people get comfortable with. Artists get hired and they get a regular paycheck every couple weeks, and that's another thing that happens in Hollywood. It's purely talent driven. You get paid as long as your stuff sells and as long as it works. So you take a greater risk to get greater pay, and that probably should really affect the model on what we do as advertising. If you really are capable of coming up with the big idea, you probably are going to have a different kind of company that is smaller and more nimble and
Yes.
can afford to gamble toward that big idea and be paid for it.
Absolutely. And they're in the contradiction. If you're smaller and more nimble, who's backing you so that you can get the best talent and you can be in that place where you can just jump on something and have that opportunity so that you can prove to the world that this is the way to do it.
You don't necessarily have to be big to be good. And I can point to business examples of this. Even when I worked on Anheuser-Busch years ago, they would come to us and we would do a lot of commercials for them all the time. And they researched them. They got grades on them from a 1 to 10.
They did tons of research.
And they would come to us and they would say, here's what we propose to do. We'll give you $1 million for every 10, every spot that scores a 10. And we don't care what it cost. But then we won't pay you for anything that goes under a 5.
Right.
But because,
so you take on the risk.
Well, the company, at that time the company was so big they couldn't take that risk. But if you had a 5-person shop working on something, and with technology being what it is, I mean, again, look at what Doritos does on the Super Bowl. You can do a lot of things in smaller fashions creatively. If we are more creative about the creative business, we could probably do more and afford to take these risks.
Well, what do you mean about what Doritos does? You mean having consumers do the commercials?
I'm not talking about have consumers do the commercials, but because of the cost of entry now to make a commercial isn't what it used to be, you can make a commercial that airs that's perfectly fine for, some of those are made for $5,000 and still
or
work.
less. The first one that won 10 years ago cost $300, and half of that was in Doritos bags.
Exactly.
And so, but that's really sad. You don't want people to say, well, why do we need ad agencies? And then Doritos took over and they taught everybody that if you have a puppy or an animal or a dancing monkey, that's going to do the best. So it started training people to look for bad advertising.
Well,
I have a counterexample from the Super Bowl where somebody did something great and unexpected. Like in 2013, Oreo was on the Super Bowl, but they also set up a social media war room. Mm-hmm. And then they had that blackout. And rather than spending any money on the commercial, they could, put out that tweet saying, you can always dunk and dip and eat Oreos during a blackout. And they won all kinds of awards for that tweet. So as you said, if you're nimble and you think ahead and you have the right people in place, you can do anything.
And think differently.
Yeah.
So, that would be the example. Basically, we now have a point in technology where we can do a lot more. The price of entry and everything is a lot cheaper. It's a lot easier to do than ever before, which is how we're able to do this super fancy podcast.
Right. It is super fancy. I appreciate that.
But there are ways to do it if you think differently. Another thing, this is maybe the hardest rule, but probably a good one, and I'd call it Joel Madden's rule because he's the super awesome manager of the Cubs, and the Cubs are doing great, and this is going to be the World Series year. But Joel Madden does stuff different than any other baseball manager. And he will make calls. He will mix things up. He will do things that nobody else will do, and always reminds his players, guys, at the end of the day, it's still a game. We're out here because it's fun. I would definitely say our business has sadly lost a little of the fun and the character.
I would say it's lost almost all the fun.
Yeah.
And that has to do with a lot of procurement. It has to do with a lot of cutbacks. It has to do with the really long hours, the lower pay.
We need to find a way to lighten up a little bit. Despite how hard it is, we have to make this a fun job and give people fun things to do. And that kind of requires that, again, we're in a weird business. It's a different business. You got to be a little bit weird and crazy and have something that's fun with that. So
more fun. I'm all for that.
More fun. And then this comes to the last one. And this would be the last chastisement or whatever, if you will. And maybe it's for everybody, but it really doesn't do any of us any good to sit around and whine about
like we've been
things
doing for the last 20 minutes.
No, we've been intellectually discussing things and analyzing.
Yes, right.
And we are doing something different.
Yeah. But at least we know at least we know we're whining. That's the thing. We're whining on purpose.
We're doing something different beyond the second part. Stop whining. Do something different. If you really don't like what's happening in your company, if you really don't like the way things are going on, it's a great time to be bold and show us some different things to do. Show us some different ways.
Because the cost of doing it is so low.
The cost of doing it's very low. There's so many cool ways out there now that you can basically have a working office without having to get into having the office.
Right. Put everything on YouTube.
The equipment is doable. There's a lot of things there. And, again, the idea about revolutionizing our business, I like that. Come up with some different
Again.
ways and do something different. So, as we kind of wrap this up, what's the best thing you saw this week?
I'm going to talk about another ad. And, one of the things that comes out of the not having fun is that I don't really understand at this point. Consumers love ads. They love talking about good ads. They hate
I
seeing the
agree.
same ones over and over and terrible ads that they can't even remember.
Right.
So when a good ad comes on TV, and I actually can laugh at it, I'm completely delighted. And I have to say that I've been noticing with the DirecTV campaign, first of all, DirecTV, I had it when I lived in San Francisco, and it was like 1,400 channels, and 400 of them were selling the Wonder Bra. So I wasn't a big fan of DirecTV. But they have this Settler campaign.
Oh, right.
And it is hilarious. And there's one commercial where they show, the sort of cliches of a Western settler, the cowboy sitting there whittling, and he says, now, mother, we are settlers, and we have to enjoy this. And the boy has his stick and hoop, and the girl has her faceless doll. And then they go, you have your cabbages, and it's this hilarious basket of hideous giant cabbages.
Right.
And, and I have my and the wife says, and you have your foot stomping, and he starts stomping his foot. So because they settle and they refuse to go to DirecTV. But I think it's like a Freudian moment too, because you're really settling when you have DirecTV, but it's still a great ad for DirecTV because you remember it.
I agree. I like those ads a lot too. And actually, in general, they've done a really great job. They come up with a lot of cool things. Okay. You talked about ads this week. I'm going to go into a different thing. It's kind of role reversal. You're talking about something kind of masculine, like funny ads.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about a touchy-feely self-help book called F Feelings. It's actually F word
The F
feelings.
word feelings. And that's on the cover, the F word?
Yes.
Or is
with
it dash?
It's F asterisk CK
Oh,
feelings.
okay.
And it's bright yellow. It's by Dr. Michael Bennett and actually co-written with his comedian daughter, Sarah. And I think for advertising media people, for everybody, this is a good book. For advertising media people, it's great because it's about feelings, which we definitely, as we said, are a weird business. We deal in feelings and hard things to tangibilize.
Right.
And it deals in problem solving.
So is it saying don't have emotion or tamp down the emotion, or what's the
No, I
F
think
feelings part
what's
of
so
it?
great about it and what I like about it and what it kind of lays out is here's what you're feeling about a particular thing. Here's how you feel, whether it's about a relationship, a business situation, or whatever. Then it gets down into, despite the way that you feel, here's what's a realistic expectation. And then
from
it gets
like
into
the outside, this is what it looks like.
from the outside.
You're
Right.
personalizing it
Right.
and you're in it.
And then getting down to what's realistic. And then the third part is usually within those realities, here's a way to fix things so that basically none of us get as stuck in the past or none of us get as lost on things that really don't matter. None of us take other people's way that they feel that we can't control and either, demonize them for them or say they're wrong.
Right.
It's just a really great book on really kind of teaching us how to manage life and work with other people. And I think,
John, we were saying that it's very hard to come up with what will fix the industry, but the ad industry, but maybe this F Feelings book is a good start.
I'm going to get you the book and we'll get out of here.
Okay, I'll take that.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
See you next time.
The Pod Couple is media experts John Amisotti and Barbara Lippert, produced by Eon Content Labs and brought to you by Epsilon. We see what others don't.